You wanted to know more about emotional intelligence at work.
Yeah.
And we dove deep into the Emotionally Intelligent Office by the School of Life
Right.
to bring you the most fascinating insights.
Absolutely.
So this book dives into all these different aspects of emotional intelligence through these really focused chapters.
Yeah.
But before we get into all that, can you remind us
Right.
what EI actually is?
So EI, it's really about understanding and managing our emotions, both our own and those of others.
Okay.
And the book breaks it down into
Yeah.
5 core
Right.
components.
Got it.
Self-awareness, self-regulation,
Yeah.
motivation, empathy, and social skills.
5 components. Got it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people assume these are just kind of like innate traits.
Right.
You're either born with them or not.
Right.
What do you think?
That's a common misconception.
Yeah.
But this book does a great job of emphasizing that these are skills,
Okay.
not fixed personality traits.
Right.
Meaning you can actually learn and develop them over time,
I love that.
which is incredibly empowering, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I might not be the most empathetic person right now,
Right.
but I can work on that.
Exactly.
I love that.
And think about the implications for your workplace.
Yeah.
Imagine a team where everyone is actively developing their EI that translates to better communication, stronger leadership, more resilience in the face of challenges,
Right.
and ultimately a much healthier and more productive work environment.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break down these 5 components.
Okay, good.
First up, self-awareness.
Okay.
What does that really look like in action in the context of work?
So self-awareness, it's all about having a deep understanding of your own emotional landscape.
Okay.
Your strengths, your weaknesses,
Yeah.
those little quirks that make you tick,
Uh-huh.
and even your values.
Okay.
And importantly, how all of that
Right.
impacts those around you.
Oh, so it's not just about knowing that you get stressed.
Yeah.
It's about knowing why you get stressed and how that might be affecting your colleagues.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's like having this internal compass
Mm-hmm.
that helps you navigate your interactions more consciously.
Right.
The book actually gives some really concrete strategies for building this self-awareness.
Like what?
Give us the goods.
Yeah.
Well, journaling is a surprisingly powerful tool. By taking the time to regularly track your emotions and notice patterns,
Yeah.
you start to gain valuable insights.
Okay.
You might notice, for example, that you tend to get more irritable after back-to-back meetings,
Oh, interesting.
or that certain types of projects trigger your anxiety.
That's so interesting. It's
Yeah.
like once you see it written down, you can't unsee it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the power of feedback.
Yeah.
Actively seeking feedback from your colleagues
Yeah.
can be incredibly illuminating,
Uh-huh.
even if it's a little uncomfortable at first.
Right.
It gives you this outside perspective
Yeah.
on how your actions and behaviors are perceived by others.
I can see how that would be helpful, though. Maybe a little scary, too.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it's all about approaching it with a growth mindset.
Okay.
You're essentially gathering data
Mm-hmm.
to help you become a more effective communicator and teammate.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
And what about those triggers you mentioned earlier?
right.
Those situations or phrases that tend to set us off.
Yeah.
I think we've all experienced those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The book dives into this concept of triggers
Yeah.
and how understanding them can be a total game changer.
Okay.
There's this great example about a manager
Mm-hmm.
who realized that his anxiety always spiked whenever deadlines were approaching.
Oh, I can relate to that.
Right.
Deadlines are definitely a trigger for me, too.
So once this manager identified this pattern,
Yeah.
he started proactively implementing strategies to manage his stress response.
Okay.
He began scheduling buffer time in his calendar
Oh, smart.
leading up to deadlines.
Yeah.
And he even started practicing mindfulness techniques
Okay.
to stay calm when the pressure was on.
So instead of just reacting in the moment
Yeah,
and maybe snapping at his team,
right.
he was able to anticipate his trigger and put a plan in place to handle it more constructively.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's the power of self-awareness in action.
I love that.
You're not just at the mercy of your emotions.
Right.
You're taking control and choosing how you want to respond.
That's such a great example.
Yeah.
So we've got self-awareness,
Right.
knowing ourselves inside and out.
Right.
But what about managing those emotions once we understand them?
Right.
Is that where self-regulation comes in?
You got it.
Okay.
Self-regulation is all about learning to ride the waves of your emotions
That's such a great analogy.
rather than getting swept away by them.
Yeah.
And, it's more nuanced than just suppressing your emotions.
Okay.
It's not about pretending you're not feeling stressed or angry.
Right.
It's about finding healthy and productive ways to process those feelings and channel them effectively.
Okay, so how do we actually do that?
Right.
Are there any specific techniques that the book recommends?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Deep breathing exercises, mindfulness practices, cognitive reframing.
Right.
These are all powerful tools for self-regulation.
Okay, let's break those down a bit.
Sure.
Deep breathing.
Yeah.
I feel like I hear that one all the time.
Right.
Does it really work?
It really can.
Okay.
When we get stressed or anxious, our breathing tends to become shallow and rapid, which actually perpetuates that feeling of panic.
Oh, wow.
But by consciously slowing down our breath and taking deep diaphragmatic breaths, we can actually signal to our nervous system that it's time to calm down.
It's like we're hacking our own biology.
Exactly.
Really.
It's a simple yet incredibly effective way to shift your physiological state and regain a sense of control.
I love that. And what about mindfulness? I've heard that word thrown around a lot,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure I fully understand what it means in practice.
So mindfulness is all about cultivating present moment awareness,
Okay.
non-judgmentally. It's about noticing your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
So instead of spiraling into a worry fest about that upcoming presentation,
Right.
I would just acknowledge that I'm feeling anxious and then try to gently bring my attention back to the present moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
It takes practice,
Yeah.
but with time, you can develop this ability to observe your thoughts and emotions from a more detached perspective,
Right.
which makes them a lot less overwhelming.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And what was that other technique you mentioned?
Cognitive reframing.
Cognitive reframing.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. So cognitive reframing is all about challenging those negative thought patterns that tend to hijack our emotions.
Yeah.
It's about consciously choosing to look at a situation from a different, more positive or empowering perspective.
So if I'm freaking out about a mistake I made at work, instead of thinking I'm a total failure, I'm going to get fired,
Right.
I would try to reframe it as a learning opportunity.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're not denying the reality of the situation,
Right.
but you're choosing to focus on the aspects that you can control and learn from.
I love that. It's like turning those negative thoughts into fuel for growth.
Precisely.
And this book really emphasizes that resilience is a big part of self-regulation.
Yes.
It's not about never experiencing setbacks or challenges.
Right.
It's about having the skills and mindset to bounce back from those experiences.
Exactly.
And keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So it's not about being tough.
Right.
It's about being adaptable and knowing how to pick yourself up when you fall.
Exactly.
Okay.
And all of these self-regulation techniques play a crucial role in building that resilience.
This is so fascinating. I'm already feeling more empowered just thinking about all of this.
That's what we love to hear. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
You don't have to master all of these techniques overnight.
Yeah.
Just start with small steps
Yeah.
and be patient with yourself.
Okay, so we've got self-awareness and self-regulation down.
Okay.
What about the next component of EI?
Okay.
Motivation.
Motivation.
I have to admit, sometimes I struggle with this one,
Sure.
especially on those Monday mornings when my to-do list feels a mile long.
Motivation is a fascinating one,
Yeah.
especially in the context of work.
Yeah.
You know, for a lot of people, motivation is all about those external rewards,
Right.
a promotion, a bonus at corner office.
Yeah, all the carrots.
Right. But the book makes a really compelling argument
Okay.
that true sustainable motivation
Yeah.
goes much deeper than that.
So it's not just about the carrots and sticks.
Right.
Or-
It's about tapping into that intrinsic motivation, that inner drive to achieve and contribute,
Right.
even when things get tough.
Yeah.
It's about finding a sense of purpose and meaning in our work.
That makes a lot of sense. But how do we actually find that sense of purpose?
Right.
Is it something we're born with, or can it be cultivated?
It's definitely something that can be cultivated, and the book offers some really insightful strategies for doing just that.
Like what?
It starts with really understanding your values.
Okay.
What matters most to you? What kind of impact do you want to make in the world?
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your work with your values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once you have that clarity, you can start looking for ways to bring more of your authentic self to your work.
Okay.
Maybe it's taking on a project that really lights you up.
Right.
Or maybe it's finding ways to use your unique skills and talents to make a positive contribution to your team or organization.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your passions and skills intersect with the needs of the organization.
You got it.
Yeah.
And here's the really interesting part. The book argues that this type of intrinsic motivation is contagious.
Wait, contagious?
Yeah.
You mean like if I'm super jazzed about my work, it can actually rub off on my colleagues?
Exactly.
Wow.
When leaders are genuinely passionate and engaged in their work,
Yeah.
it inspires those around them to step up their game as well.
Okay.
It creates this ripple effect of positive energy and productivity.
So it's not just about finding our own internal motivation.
Right.
It's about creating a culture of motivation that lifts everyone up.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that's where emotional intelligence becomes such a powerful tool for leaders.
Okay. I'm definitely starting to see how all of these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
So we've got self-awareness,
Okay.
self-regulation, and motivation.
Right.
That brings us to the next piece of the EI puzzle.
Okay.
Empathy.
Empathy.
This one feels a bit more challenging to me.
Sure.
I mean, I consider myself a compassionate person.
Okay.
But I have to admit, sometimes I get so caught up in my own work and deadlines that I forget to really tune in to those around me.
You've hit on a common challenge.
Yeah.
And the book offers a really refreshing perspective on this.
Okay.
You see, for a long time, empathy has been framed as this personality trait. Either you're an empathetic person or you're not.
Right. Like
Yeah.
some people are just naturally good at reading others' emotions, and others are a bit more clueless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the Emotionally Intelligent Office flips that script
Okay.
and reframes empathy as a skill.
Okay, now that's encouraging.
Yeah,
So even if I'm not naturally the most empathetic person,
Right.
I can still get better at it.
absolutely.
Oh, look.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's about taking concrete steps to understand and share the feelings of others.
Okay.
It's about shifting your focus from me to we.
So what are some of those concrete steps?
Right.
Give us the empathy cheat sheet.
Well, active listening is a big one.
Okay.
It's not just about hearing the words someone is saying. It's about truly listening with your full attention,
Uh-huh.
trying to understand their perspective and how they're feeling.
So putting down my phone,
Yeah,
making eye contact,
Right.
and really tuning into what they're saying, both verbally and non-verbally.
exactly.
Okay.
And then there's the power of asking open-ended questions.
Okay.
Instead of just asking yes or no questions,
Yeah.
try asking questions that invite the other person to share their thoughts and feelings more deeply.
Okay.
Questions like, tell me more about that. Or how did that make you feel?
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah,
It's about showing genuine curiosity and creating a safe space for them to open up.
you got it.
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, empathy is about perspective taking.
Okay.
It's about putting yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to see the world from their point of view.
I can see how that would be incredibly powerful in the workplace.
Yeah.
Instead of just jumping to conclusions or making assumptions about why someone is behaving a certain way, we take the time to really understand where they're coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, empathy isn't just about being nice or avoiding conflict.
Right.
It's actually a superpower that can transform teams and organizations.
Oh.
It's about building trust,
Uh-huh.
fostering collaboration, and even unlocking innovative solutions.
Wait, how does empathy lead to more innovative solutions?
Well, when we truly understand the needs and perspectives of our colleagues,
Okay.
clients, or customers,
Yeah.
we're more likely to come up with ideas and solutions that actually meet their needs.
Right.
We're less likely to get stuck in our own heads
Uh-huh.
and more likely to see the bigger picture.
So it's not just about feeling good.
Right.
It's about achieving better results.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the Emotionally Intelligent Office shares this really compelling case study about a CEO
Okay.
who transformed his company's culture through empathy.
Wow.
He implemented an open-door policy,
Oh, interesting.
encouraging employees at all levels to come to him with their concerns,
Well,
ideas, and suggestions.
That's a great example.
Yeah,
I think that made people feel heard and valued.
it did.
Yeah.
And it created this incredible ripple effect throughout the organization. Employees felt more engaged and empowered.
Well.
Communication improved drastically.
Wow.
And the company started coming up with more creative and effective solutions to their challenges.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example of how empathy can actually be a strategic advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just some touchy-feely concept. It's
Yeah.
a critical driver of success.
Okay, so we've covered 4 out of 5 components of EI.
Okay.
Self-awareness,
Huh?
self-regulation,
Right.
motivation, and
Yeah.
empathy.
Okay.
That leaves us with social skills.
Social skills.
I have to admit, I'm a bit curious about how this one fits into the whole EI picture.
So social skills are absolutely essential for putting all of those other components into action.
Okay.
Think of it as the bridge between your internal emotional world and your interactions with others.
So it's not just about being charismatic or the life of the party.
Right.
Like,
It goes much deeper than that.
yeah.
It's about building and maintaining healthy relationships,
Okay.
navigating conflict effectively,
Right.
and communicating clearly and assertively.
So those crucial conversation skills that can help us avoid unnecessary drama and misunderstanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the Emotionally Intelligent Office goes beyond those basic communication tips
Okay.
and really dives into the nuances of effective communication.
Okay.
It emphasizes the importance of I statements,
Mm.
using non-defensive language,
Okay.
and truly listening to understand,
Yeah.
not just to respond.
Okay. I'm all about that. I feel like I could definitely use a refresher on some of those communication techniques.
I think we all could.
Yeah.
And the book offers some really practical strategies for honing those skills.
Like what?
One that I found particularly helpful is the idea of role-playing and scenario analysis.
Wait, role playing? Like pretending to have those awkward or difficult conversations before they actually happen.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It might sound a little silly,
Yeah.
but it's a really effective way to practice those communication skills in a safe and controlled environment.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like having a dress rehearsal for those potentially challenging interactions.
Think of it this way. Imagine feeling confident and prepared going into any workplace conversation
Right.
because you've already mentally rehearsed how to handle those tricky moments.
Yeah.
That's the power of strong social skills.
Okay. I'm sold. I need to start incorporating some role playing into my life.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It can make a world of difference.
So we've got a solid understanding of the 5 core components of emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Mm.
Self-awareness,
Mm.
self-regulation,
Right.
motivation,
Yeah.
empathy,
Yeah.
and social skills.
Right.
But how does all of this apply to leadership?
Right.
Does the book specifically address the role of EI in leadership?
Absolutely. In fact, there's an entire chapter dedicated to exploring how emotional intelligence can make leaders more effective,
Okay.
trustworthy, and inspiring.
I can definitely see how those qualities would be essential for any leader.
Yeah.
But I'm curious,
Okay.
does the book suggest that only certain personality types are cut out for leadership?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the book takes a much more inclusive approach.
Okay.
It emphasizes that anyone can benefit from developing these leadership skills,
Okay.
regardless of their personality type or current role.
That's so encouraging.
Yeah.
So even if I'm not currently in a management position,
Right.
I can still work on developing those emotionally intelligent leadership qualities.
Absolutely.
Ah.
And the reality is we're all leaders in some capacity,
Right.
whether we're leading a team, a project, or simply influencing those around us through our actions and interactions.
That's a really empowering perspective.
Yeah.
So how does the book suggest we go about developing those emotionally intelligent leadership skills?
Well, it starts with understanding how those 5 core components of EI
Yeah.
translate into effective leadership behaviors.
Okay.
For example, a leader with high self-awareness
Yeah.
is able to recognize their own strengths and weaknesses
Yeah.
and how they impact their team.
Right.
They're also able to read the room and adjust their communication style accordingly.
So they're not just blindly charging ahead with their own agenda.
Right.
They're taking the time to understand the needs and perspectives of their team.
Exactly.
Okay.
And a leader with strong self-regulation skills
Yeah.
is able to stay calm and composed under pressure,
Right.
even when things get chaotic.
Yeah.
They don't let their emotions hijack their decision-making
You're right.
or their interactions with their team.
That's so important.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen what happens when leaders lose their cool.
Right.
It can really demoralize a team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's motivation.
Okay.
An emotionally intelligent leader is able to tap into their own intrinsic motivation and inspire that same drive in their team.
Okay.
They're not just focused on hitting targets.
Right.
They're focused on creating a shared sense of purpose and meaning.
So it's about creating a work environment where people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's empathy.
Okay.
An empathetic leader is able to build strong relationships with their team members,
Right.
creating a culture of trust and mutual respect.
Yeah.
They're also able to understand and address the needs and concerns of their team,
Uh-huh.
which fosters a sense of loyalty and belonging.
I can see how that would create a much more positive and productive work environment.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have social skills.
Okay.
How do strong social skills translate into effective leadership?
Well, think about all the communication that happens in a leadership role.
Right.
Giving feedback,
Yeah.
delegating tasks,
Yeah.
resolving conflicts,
Right.
inspiring and motivating a team.
Yeah.
All of these interactions require strong social skills.
So it's not just about being likable or extroverted. It's about having those crucial communication skills that allow you to build relationships,
Exactly.
navigate difficult conversations, and get things done.
You got it.
Okay.
And the book argues that emotionally intelligent leaders are more effective
Right.
because they're able to create a positive emotional climate within their team.
Right.
They're able to motivate and inspire their team members to achieve their full potential.
I love that. So it's not just about being the boss. It's about being a leader that people actually want to follow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about leading with both your head and your heart.
Okay, so we've talked about the individual benefits of EI,
Right.
and we've explored how it can make us more effective leaders.
Yeah.
But what about the bigger picture?
Okay.
How can we create a truly emotionally intelligent organization?
Right.
Does the Emotionally Intelligent Office address that?
It does.
Okay.
And it's one of the most fascinating aspects of the book.
Okay, what does it say?
It argues that creating an emotionally intelligent organization is about more just having a few emotionally intelligent individuals sprinkled throughout.
Okay.
It's about creating a culture where emotional intelligence is valued, nurtured, and woven into the very fabric of the organization.
So it's not just about sending a few managers to an EI training and calling it a day.
Right.
Okay.
It's about a much more holistic approach.
Yeah.
It's about embedding EI into the organization's values,
All right.
policies, and practices.
So how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin?
Well, the book highlights a few key strategies.
Okay.
One is implementing EI training programs
Okay.
that are accessible to everyone in the organization,
Right.
not just those in leadership positions.
That makes sense. I mean, everyone benefits from developing their EI,
Yeah.
not just the people at the top.
And it's not just about one-off training sessions.
Okay.
It's about creating ongoing opportunities for learning and development.
So workshops, coaching sessions, maybe even book clubs or discussion groups focused on EI.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book also suggests incorporating EI into performance reviews.
Wait, so instead of just evaluating employees based on their technical skills and output,
Right.
we're also assessing their emotional intelligence.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's about recognizing that EI is just as important as those other skills,
Yeah.
especially in today's collaborative work environment.
That's a really interesting idea. I can see how that would send a clear message that EI is valued and expected within the organization.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, the
Okay.
book emphasizes the need for leadership to walk the walk when it comes to EI.
Right.
It's not enough to just talk about it.
Yeah.
Leaders need to actively model these behaviors.
So if I'm a manager and I'm constantly losing my cool and yelling at my team,
Right.
it doesn't really matter if I send them to an empathy training, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
If leaders are truly committed to creating an emotionally intelligent organization,
Yeah.
they need to be willing to do the inner work themselves
Okay.
and demonstrate those EI skills in their daily interactions.
So it's about creating a culture where vulnerability is okay,
Yeah.
where people feel safe to express their emotions,
All right. Yeah.
and where empathy and compassion are the norm, not the exception.
That's the ultimate goal.
Oh.
And the Emotionally Intelligent Office argues that this type of cultural shift is not only possible,
Okay.
it's absolutely essential for the future of work.
I love that. So it's not just about individual growth.
Right.
It's about creating a better work environment for everyone.
Exactly.
Oh.
It's about building a workplace where people feel valued,
Yeah.
respected, and empowered to bring their whole selves to work.
This has been so insightful. I'm already feeling inspired to go out there and create a more emotionally intelligent workplace.
That's fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
Start small. Be patient with yourself and celebrate those small wins along the way.
That's great advice. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
And I know our listener's brain is probably buzzing with new ideas.
Right.
But before we move on, I want to touch on one more thing.
Okay.
Continuous growth.
Continuous growth.
How do we ensure that we keep learning and developing our emotional intelligence over time?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And the book emphasizes that mastering emotional intelligence is not a one-time achievement.
Okay.
It's an ongoing journey.
So it's not like we take a workshop, check a box, and
No.
boom, we're emotionally intelligent forever.
Not quite.
Okay.
It requires a commitment to continuous learning and self-reflection.
Any specific strategies from the book that we can share with our listener?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Lifelong learning is key.
Okay.
That could mean attending workshops,
Mm-hmm.
reading books and articles,
Yeah.
or even listening to podcasts like this one.
Hey, we're all about that.
The book also stresses the importance of mindfulness practices like meditation and deep breathing to help us stay grounded and self-aware.
So it's about creating those daily habits that help us stay connected to our emotions and cultivate that sense of inner peace.
Exactly. And seeking feedback from colleagues and mentors can provide invaluable insights into our strengths and areas for growth.
That's so important. Sometimes we need that outside perspective to help us see things more clearly.
And remember, the workplace is constantly evolving, so we need to be adaptable in our approach to emotional intelligence. What worked yesterday might not be as effective tomorrow.
So we need to be flexible and willing to adjust our EI skills as needed.
Exactly. It's all about staying curious, staying open to new ideas, and staying committed to personal growth.
I love that. So to recap, emotional intelligence is a set of learnable skills that can benefit us individually as leaders and as organizations. It's about bringing our whole selves to work, embracing the power of emotions, and committing to continuous learning and growth.
Well said. And remember, it's not about striving for perfection, it's about progress.
I think our listener is ready to go out there and create a more emotionally intelligent workplace. But before we sign off, I know you have a final, thought-provoking question to leave them with.
I do, and it builds on what we were just discussing about bringing your whole self to work. The book argues that this is a key ingredient to happiness and fulfillment in the workplace. So my question to you, dear listener, is this: what aspect of yourself do you wish you could express more freely at work?
Wow, that's a powerful question, something for all of us to ponder.
It's a question that really invites some introspection, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What parts of ourselves do we leave at the door when we step into our workplaces?
It makes you think for sure. And I love how the Emotionally Intelligent Office emphasizes that bringing our whole selves to work isn't just about personal fulfillment. It's actually beneficial for the organization as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When people feel safe and encouraged to be their authentic selves, they're more engaged, more creative, and more invested in the success of the team. It's a win-win.
So it's not about turning the office into some kind of free-for-all therapy session. It's about creating a culture where people feel comfortable expressing their ideas, perspectives, and even their vulnerabilities in a way that's constructive and professional.
Precisely. It's about finding that balance between professionalism and authenticity.
Hmm.
And that's where emotional intelligence plays such a crucial role. It gives us the tools to navigate those complex interpersonal dynamics with grace and skill.
This is making me think about a time when I was working on a really high-pressure project, and I was feeling incredibly overwhelmed. I was so focused on just getting the work done that I completely shut down emotionally. I didn't want to burden my colleagues with my stress, so I just put on a brave face and powered through.
That's a really common response, especially in work environments where there's a stigma around expressing vulnerability.
But looking back, I realized that my approach wasn't very helpful. I mean, I was probably sending out all sorts of stressed out vibes without even realizing it, and it probably affected the team dynamic in ways I wasn't even aware of.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking we need to be stoic and unfazed at work. But the reality is we're all human, and we all experience a wide range of emotions even in the workplace. And trying to suppress those emotions can actually backfire.
So what's the alternative? How could I have handled that situation differently through a more emotionally intelligent lens?
Well, first of all, it's important to remember that it's okay to not be okay. You don't have to pretend that you're not feeling stressed or overwhelmed. In fact, acknowledging those feelings can actually be incredibly helpful.
So instead of bottling it up, maybe I could have just said to my team, hey, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed with this project. Can we take a few minutes to regroup and make sure we're all on the same page?
Exactly. By simply naming your emotions, you're not only taking some of the pressure off yourself, but you're also opening up a space for others to share their own experiences.
It's like we're giving each other permission to be human.
Precisely. And that vulnerability can actually create a deeper sense of connection and trust within a team. And then once you've acknowledged those feelings, you can start to explore strategies for managing them effectively.
So maybe instead of just soldiering on alone, I could have asked my colleagues for their support or brainstormed some solutions together.
Exactly. And by drawing on the collective wisdom and support of the team, you're not only taking care of yourself, but you're also modeling healthy coping mechanisms and building a more resilient team culture.
Wow, that's such a powerful shift in perspective. It's making me realize that emotional intelligence isn't just about being nice or touchy-feely. It's actually about being more effective in all aspects of our work.
That's a great way to put it. And the Emotionally Intelligent Office really drives home this point, that emotional intelligence is a critical driver of success in the modern workplace. It's no longer a soft skill, it's a core competency.
So if our listener is convinced that they need to up their EI game, where do they even begin?
Well, first of all, I highly recommend checking out the Emotionally Intelligent Office. It's packed with practical advice and actionable strategies for developing each of those 5 core components of EI: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
It's like having a roadmap for building emotional intelligence.
Exactly. And it's written in such an accessible and engaging way. It doesn't feel like a textbook at all.
And beyond reading the book, are there any other steps our listener can take to start putting these concepts into practice?
Absolutely. It's all about making small, consistent changes in your daily interactions. Start by paying attention to your own emotions and how they're impacting your behavior. Notice those patterns and triggers we talked about earlier. And don't be afraid to experiment with those self-regulation techniques like deep breathing and cognitive reframing.
So it's about turning those concepts into action, making them a part of our daily routine.
Exactly. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be times when you slip up or revert to old habits. That's perfectly normal. The key is to be kind to yourself, learn from those experiences, and keep practicing.
It's like building any new muscle. It takes time and effort to develop that emotional intelligence strength.
That's a great analogy. And just like with physical exercise, it's important to find a routine that works for you. Maybe it's starting each day with a few minutes of mindfulness meditation, or setting aside time each week to reflect on your interactions and identify areas for growth.
And what about those social skills? Any tips for our listener on how to level up their communication game?
Absolutely. One of the simplest yet most effective strategies is to focus on becoming a better listener. Put down your phone, make eye contact, and really tune into what the other person is saying, both verbally and nonverbally.
So it's about being present and engaged in those conversations, not just waiting for our turn to talk.
Exactly. And when you do speak, try to use I statements to express your thoughts and feelings clearly and assertively. For example, instead of saying, "You're always late," you could say, "I feel frustrated when meetings don't start on time."
Okay, that's a great tip.
Mm.
It's about taking ownership of our own emotions and expressing them in a way that's respectful and constructive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, communication is a two-way street. It's not just about expressing yourself effectively. It's also about being open to hearing and understanding the other person's perspective.
So it's about finding that balance between speaking our truth and listening with empathy.
Precisely. And when we can do that, we create a much more harmonious and productive work environment for everyone.
This has been so incredibly insightful. I feel like I've gained so much valuable insight from the Emotionally Intelligent Office already. And I know our listeners probably feeling inspired to start putting these concepts into practice as well.
I hope so. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference.
So before we wrap up this deep dive into the Emotionally Intelligent Office, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listener walks away with?
I think the most important message is that emotional intelligence is a skill, not a talent. It's something we can all learn and develop with practice.
It's a message of hope and empowerment.
Exactly. And I hope our listener feels inspired to take that first step on their own EI journey.
Well said. So to recap, we dove deep into The Emotionally Intelligent Office by the School of Life, exploring the 5 core components of emotional intelligence and how we can cultivate these skills to create a more fulfilling and productive work experience for ourselves and those around us.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise. And a huge thank you to our listener for joining us on this journey. Remember, you don't have to go it alone. The Emotionally Intelligent Office is an incredible resource, and we highly recommend checking it out. We'll include links to the book, the audiobook, and a summary PDF in the show notes.
And until next time, keep practicing those EI skills.
See you on our next deep dive.